You're listening to Keith Sports News. Hey guys, welcome to a special Saturday edition of KSN. That's right. You're probably wondering, why is this episode on a Saturday? You're one day late. Why wasn't this on a Friday night? I know, I apologize. I didn't say that from the last episode where episode 47 would be on a Saturday. I said I would be back on Friday. So, I'm going to explain. First of all, it's great to do an episode. Better late than ever, I guess. So, yes, I'm one day late. The reason why I didn't do this episode on Friday is because I just didn't have enough time. I didn't have enough time. I know that sounds like a stupid excuse, but I really did not have the time. And I know I said I would be back on Friday, but unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. But I'm sure you guys are not complaining, y'all are not upset. If there's like a crazy emergency or something, then I will let you guys know. But there's just no bad news for me, so that's good. I just did not have the time. And also, Eric Super Magnificent has been busy this week. Yes. A lot of live streaming, that's for sure. So, yeah. So, again, I apologize for doing this a day later. But sometimes it might be like this. Most of the episodes will be on Mondays and Fridays. But once in a while, there might be a Tuesday episode or a Saturday episode, but most of them are on Mondays and Fridays, okay, at 11 a.m. Central Time. I made sure to schedule the episodes at that time, okay? Why 11 a.m. Central? Well, because 11 a.m. Central is when some sporting events begin, like I live in Central Time, and there are some events that come on at 11 a.m., not many, but the big ones. So, yeah, mainly football and baseball games. So, yeah. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say before I move forward to what I want to talk about. First of all, yes, I'm in a different room. I'm actually back in this room, but first time doing an episode of me sitting on this couch, okay? You're probably wondering, why are you doing this episode in here? Well, all evening I was in this room. Yeah. And because I was watching multiple things at once, okay? I'll talk about that in a little bit. First of all, this is going to be a big episode because there is a lot to talk about. There is so much to talk about. For the first time, I had to write down a list on what I want to talk about in this episode. Remember, I used to say in the early episodes, I would ask, so, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? Okay, let me just go through these categories. All right? I'm going to talk about, if you're wondering what that sound is, that is the air condition It's summer. I live in South Louisiana. It's hot. Even at night, I have to have that on. So I'm gonna try to speak louder. Okay. I don't think that's gonna bother you guys. But I had to write down a list on what I want to talk about in this episode. First time. All these episodes, I would just try to remember them in my head. But this one, I can't remember. I may not remember all of this in my head. So I wrote a list on what I want to talk about. And maybe I'll do this every time I do an episode, if there's a lot to talk about. Lately, there has been a lot to talk about. All right. So let me go through the categories on what I will talk about, and then we'll start talking about these categories one by one. The UFL, United Football League Conference Championship games. I will preview those and give you my predictions of those games. The Canadian Football League, the CFL, has begun. Okay? The Belmont Stakes, horse racing, is later this afternoon. Okay? The French Open Finals. By the time you see this, or actually by the time I release this, I think the women's final has ended. But as I speak, the match hasn't started. All right? So I am recording this at after 1 a.m. It's after 1 a.m. I usually record these episodes super late at night before I go to bed, So that way I don't have to wake up early and record the episode at 10 o'clock a.m. an hour before I would usually release the episodes. No. I'd rather do it like this, record them late at night, upload it, schedule it, and then have it ready to go. Okay? So, yeah, the French Open tennis is coming to an end. Okay? Some MLB news I would like to share, mainly the Colorado Rockies. All right? The NBA Finals have begun, and the Stanley Cup Final has begun. All right, in the NBA and NHL. Okay, so, you know what I'm going to do? I haven't done this in a while. I'm actually going to do it, since this is going to be a big episode and since there is a lot to talk about. And I'm going to do this from Eric Super Magnificent. That channel has been doing a lot of live streams of truck simulator games. Okay? Yeah, for those of you that do follow that channel, which I'm pretty sure all of you guys do, because I think most of you guys found this channel from Eric Super Magnificent. Okay? Alright. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to talk about the all these categories that I just mentioned. I'm going to go through them one by one. But first, I'm going to play the soundtracks of Truck Simulator while I talk about these big sporting events, because there is a lot that has happened this week and into this weekend. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that the music won't be too loud. Okay. Alright, here we go. Alright, so, okay, it's now playing these soundtracks. Let me lower the music, let me lower the volume so that you guys can hear me loud and clear. Alright, so, we have to start with the Stanley Cup Final, because to me, that is the biggest thing happening right now in sports. To me. Okay? So I'm going to start with that first and then move down the list. Okay? The Stanley Cup Final. They don't say finals like NBA finals. They just say final. And you know how I know that, or where did I get that from? Well, it was from one of my favorite sports talk podcasts to listen to. Shine on Sports with Adam Shine. Yeah, on SiriusXM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. You know, a very familiar voice. He would be like, "Sporty sports, 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 sports. Man, you gotta love sports." Yeah. So like, when he was going in the commercial, see, I don't listen to these podcasts live. Last year I sorta did, but this was before I got into even more podcasts. I would like write a list, type in all the podcasts that I really like to listen to. So there was a time they played this before, and he would, you know, where they go into commercial and stuff, or coming out of commercial. They're basically like, he was asking, why isn't it, he was asking his producer, I believe, so, do you think it's Stanley Cup Finals or Final? And the producer says, I think it's with an S, Finals. And Adam Shine said, you know that's wrong, right? There's no S. Why is there no S in Finals? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, but it's really called the Stanley Cup Final, not Stanley Cup Finals. But I think most people say Finals. Anyways, I have to start off with the Stanley Cup. Games 1 and 2. That's right. Now that this is a Saturday episode, Game 2 was last night, so I get to talk about 2 of the Stanley Cup games. And holy crap. They were both fantastic games. Unreal. Crazy. I mean, this is a rematch from last year's Stanley Cup Final between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. This time, Edmonton has home ice advantage. Okay. And which is a great thing to have, right? Unless if you're the Florida Panthers, it seems like home ice advantage doesn't really matter to them for some odd reason. But, yeah. Let me tell you what I did here, okay? So, Game 1 was Wednesday night, right? So, I was watching it live, Game 1, and I have 2 options for the broadcast. I can either watch it on TNT, the American broadcast, or Sportsnet, the Canadian broadcast. I chose Sportsnet, the Canadian broadcast. I like both. I do. I like both the announcers, Kenny Albert on TNT, and the other guy on Sportsnet. His name is Chris. I keep forgetting how to pronounce his last name. Chris Cuthbert. Yeah, he's great too. I was listening to him calling the Four Nations face-off when Team Canada was in it. All right. So I decided to choose the Sportsnet broadcast mainly because we have a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Final, the Edmonton Oilers, and they are the home team. Okay, so I did that for both Games 1 and Game 2. Game 3 will be in South Florida, and I'm gonna listen to the TNT broadcast because the American team will be the home team this time. So I'll listen to the TNT broadcast for games 3 and 4. All right. So, my gosh, it's hard to put in the words, man. Hockey is one crazy sport. It's hard to follow the puck on television, but like the broadcast is just great, you know. So I watched the first period, okay? And then the rest of the game, I listened to it on radio. Why? Because of Eric Super Magnificent's channel going live, playing a game. So, yeah, because that channel scheduled those streams like a week or two in advance. The Stanley Cup Final wasn't scheduled a week or two in advance. It is what it is. But I listened to it on the radio, SiriusXM. They have like a whole bunch of sporting events that you can listen to, which is great. So that's what I did for game 1. And man, it went into overtime. It was a fantastic game, man. It's just crazy. I forgot what the score was for game 1 because game 2 ended not too long ago. So I gotta check the score for game 1. Okay, game 1 was overtime. And let me see here. Let me check the scoring summary first, because it's hard to remember all this stuff, you know? Especially from, you know, me talking about a whole bunch of different sports. So, yeah, so after the first period, oh yeah, I remember now, because I'm looking at the scoring summary. The Edmonton Oilers, they scored first after 1 minute into the game. 1 minute after the face-off puck drop, they scored. Okay? They scored early, quick. And then the Florida Panthers, they scored 2 more goals in the first period. And then they scored a 3rd goal in the second period, make it 3-1. So then the Edmonton Oilers, they would have to make a comeback. They scored a 2nd goal after the second period. The Panthers were winning 3-2. Then the Oilers tied it up in the 3rd period, and then it went into overtime. And there was no goal. Remember, in overtime, it's not the 5-minute overtime and then the shootout. It's another whole new period, 20 minutes until someone scores a goal. That's how they determine the winner. That's how the game ends. And this game 1 almost went into double overtime. And the Edmonton Oilers scored the game-winning goal, and they won 4-3, and they took game 1. What a game. And I listened to the TSN Sports Center with Jay Onright, my favorite sports late-night highlight show. All right? Now, game 2 was even more crazy. Yeah, I know. So game 2, I watched that live. The whole thing. Okay? The whole broadcast. In here. That's why I'm still in this room. Might as well do an episode in this room just because I was in this room all evening. This game was crazy. I was messaging my brother because he's a big hockey fan. So, the Edmonton crowd so loud, man. They want to win this Stanley Cup so bad. Not only because they came up short last year, but it's been over 30 years since a NHL team in Canada. It's been like, I think since 1993, the last Canadian team to win it. I think it was the Montreal Canadiens. But my gosh, it's been long enough. It's time for a Canadian team to win it. Even though Team Canada, they usually win the gold medal in the Winter Olympics, you know. So, yes, I want the Edmonton Oilers to win, mainly because I want to see a different team to win it. And, you know, they have Connor McDavid. He is the player to watch, right? All right. So, second game, the Panthers scored early. They scored early. Yeah, and when they score, the crowd went quiet. But then the Edmonton Oilers scored 2 more goals halfway through the first period, 2-1 Edmonton. And then not too long after their second goal, the Florida Panthers scored another goal to tie it up, 2-2. And then a minute later, the Oilers scored their third goal, 3-2. Not even, like, oh my gosh. Oh, just a little over halfway through the first period. That was the score, 3-2. Crazy. Second period, the Florida Panthers scored 2 more goals and they took the lead 4-3. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a shootout. It's crazy. So then, the Edmonton Oilers, they need to tie up the game, right? In order for it to go to overtime again. And OMG, that's exactly what happened. They got the empty net. Oilers empty net, no goalie. With 18 seconds left, they scored the tying goal, 4-4, at the end of regulation. And this second game also went into overtime. And you know what? Yeah, you know what happened. After that, no goals. No goals in the first overtime period. So then we go to a second overtime. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. The fans getting their money's worth after 4 hours. Because I remember what time the game actually started. About 4 hours this whole game, from start to finish. We finally got a goal. And it was from the Florida Panthers. They scored the game-winning goal, 5-4 in the final. Game 2, Florida Panthers even up the series at 1 game apiece. And you know what that means. They have to, the players, the coaches, the officials, and the announcers, and all the TV crew, they have to fly all the way down to South Florida. Yeah, they have to do that long-ass plane flight again, like they did last year. They did that 3 times because it went 7 games. I think this will also go 7 games. All right. Now it's game 3 will be in South Florida, so they get 2 days off because of the travel. I mean, damn, they should get 3 days off after that second game. Unreal. But Game 3 will be on Monday night. Okay. And in my opinion, it's a must-win for the Edmonton Oilers because the Florida Panthers have home ice. So it's going to be like a totally different environment, that's for sure. But my gosh, when was the last time a Stanley Cup Final, the first 2 games went into overtime? I mean, goodness gracious. This could be last year. Do y'all remember one of my early episodes of me talking about my favorite sports championship games per year? Well, last year, my favorite championship game was the Stanley Cup Final. And it might be like that again this year. Because I am really enjoying the Stanley Cup Final. Wow. Alright. Moving on to Game 3 in South Florida on Monday night. So this time I will listen to TNT's coverage with Kenny Albert, because the Florida Panthers are the home team, the American team, and TNT is the American broadcast. So, yeah, it'll be something. It'll be must-watch, must-see TV. That's for sure. Man, what if every game goes into overtime? What if it's 4, 5, 6, or 7? Well, it's got to be 5 games. Because, you know, the series is tied at 1 game apiece. That'd be crazy if they all go to overtime. Like, that means, obviously, when a game goes into overtime, the game is not a blowout. It's a close game. You know, that's how that works. Okay, time to drink some water so we can talk about the next category. Alright, so the next big thing that I want to talk about is the NBA Finals. That's right. The NBA Finals, they began their series on Thursday night, okay? And, you know, this NBA Finals, to me, I'm not really excited for, even though it's 2 teams that have never won it before. I wanted the New York Knicks to be in the finals, but they came up short. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned this in the last episode of KSN. Well, I might as well mention to it now. I know I'm a little late to mention about this, but why on earth? Excuse me. Why on earth would they? Why on earth would they fire their coach? The Knicks fired Thibodeau, the head coach, after failing to get into the NBA Finals. What a shame. Must be something behind the scenes, or I don't know, maybe the owner just doesn't like the guy. That sucks. And you know what? Something similar happened. Yeah. Something similar happened the other day. The Dallas Stars, they fired their head coach as well after missing the Stanley Cup Final 3 years in a row. Or I think it was they lost the Western Conference Final 3 years in a row and he gets fired. Come on, man. What the heck? Some of these owners are just so sensitive. I don't understand, but it is what it is, I guess. That's life. That's just life of being in the sports business, I guess, you know? So, but yeah, I have heard about that. The Tom Thibodeau. Is it Tom Thibodeau? Is that his name? Tom? First name? I know his last name is Thibodeau. Yep, it is. And the Knicks at the time, they haven't been to the Eastern Conference Final in over 25 years. And then this is their aftermath? Really? I don't get it. It's just bizarre. So, I don't even know who's going to replace him. Same with the Dallas Stars head coach. But isn't that a shame? It's not like they failed to make the playoffs 3 years in a row. Then I would understand why you fired him. But no, that's not the case. It's just doesn't make sense. I don't know what to expect now. Yeah. All right, now to the NBA Finals. All right. Okay, so like I said, I wasn't really hyped for this matchup. I mean, I'm not an NBA fan in general, but I try to watch the NBA Finals every year, okay? This might be exciting for a lot of people because it's two teams that have never won it before, and unfortunately there must be a losing team in this series. I predicted a while ago that Oklahoma City Thunder was going to win the NBA Finals. I picked them in 6 games. I think a lot of people say that they're going to win this easily. All right. So game 1 was on Thursday night. Okay. And I didn't get a chance to watch the game because of other things. And I think you may know why. You may know why I wasn't able to watch it on television. Well, I'll tell you why. Because of Eric Super Magnificent, another live stream on that channel, which is American Truck Simulator, and it was a super long live stream. All right. So, however, I listened to the last 5 minutes of the game on SiriusXM. The reason why I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole game was because I was listening to a baseball game on the radio, SiriusXM instead. So I waited until after the game ended and listened a little bit of their post show. I checked to see if the NBA Finals was still on, and it was, all right? Now this was also a crazy matchup, okay? So the game was at Oklahoma City, and they were winning, let me see here. They were winning like the majority of the game, right? So, let's see here. At the end of the first quarter, the Thunder were leading 29-20, okay? And then at halftime, I'm looking at the ESPN win game flow. Let's see here. All right. So after the second quarter, the Thunder, they were leading by they scored 57, and the Pacers got 45. Okay. All right, and then the third quarter, the Thunder, they got 85 points. And the Pacers got 76 points. So yeah, I remember the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were leading by 9 points, okay? The majority of the game, like 99% of the game, they were winning. All right, and you see, look at the win probability. I'll tell you in a bit, then I'll show you. ESPN, they'll have like their win probability. So with about 3 minutes left, OKC was leading by 9 points, 108-99, and ESPN had OKC winning the game by, 96.4%, right? And then somehow the Pacers came back, keep shooting those threes, and my gosh, listening to the end of that game was pretty crazy. The Pacers did it again. They came back, and they won at the very end. I heard, listening to the broadcast, they scored the game-winning basket with like 0.2 of a second left. And that's how they won. Why does this happen often with the Pacers? They won. They take game one by a score of 111-110. What? The Pacers did it again. Oh my gosh. You know what? It'll be great if the Pacers do win the NBA Finals after all, because they deserve it. They beat the Knicks, beat the heavily favored Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, seriously, no one thought they would be in the NBA Finals. They're like a 4 seed. I believe they are a 4 seed. In the regular season, they won 50 games. OKC won 68 games in their regular season. That's 18 more games. That's a big difference, So, I don't really care which team wins. I kind of hope it goes game 7 games, but I'll be fine whichever team wins. But wow, what a huge win for the Indiana Pacers. I think the Thunder's going to win game 2. They have to. They have to win game 2. And apparently game 2 is on Sunday night instead of tonight. And I don't really know why. Because normally in the NBA and Stanley Cup Final, you would get a day off in between the games that you are in the same city. But when you are traveling, you get 2 days off. But they're not traveling. Game 2 should have been on Saturday night. And it's on ABC like it always has been. What is ABC having on Saturday night? Because I have no idea. It's not the UFL Conference Championship games. Those are going to be on Sunday, okay? So what is ABC showing on Saturday night? I want to know. They could have easily have game 2 on Saturday night. And then game 3 would be on Tuesday night. But instead, game 3 is on Wednesday night. It's weird, this schedule sometimes, but okay then. Anyways, what a crazy start to the NBA and NHL finals, those are the 2 big things happening in sports right now. So I will try to watch tune into the rest of these series live if I get a chance, depending on what else is going on. Okay. To the MLB. Earlier this week, the main thing I want to talk about in Major League Baseball is that the Colorado Rockies, yeah, remember for the past month, people, including myself, would talk about the Colorado Rockies. Well, how many losses does this team have now, you know? Somehow, they swept the Miami Marlins. And it was not in Coors Field in Colorado. It was at Lone Depot Park in Miami. I was like, there's no way that really happened. Wow. And I know the Marlins, they're not a good team. They're one of those teams that just aren't good for many years. But getting swept at home by the worst team is embarrassing. Let's take a look at these scores. So I believe they had a 3-game series on Monday. Monday night, the Rockies won 6-4. Tuesday night, the Rockies won 3-2. And then Wednesday, I don't know if this was afternoon or evening, they won again 3-2. Wow. Let's see. Did either team play on Thursday? No. Let's see who are the Colorado Rockies are playing this weekend and the Miami Marlins. So Friday, the Miami Marlins, they stayed in Florida, but they are playing the other team in Florida, the Tampa Bay Rays, at Tampa Bay, George M. Steinbrenner Field, you know, where the New York Yankees play their games at spring training. That minor league ballpark. It's actually a very nice minor league ballpark. And the Rays won. Oh boy, that Miami Marlins losing streak continues. But did the Colorado Rockies winning streak continue? Who did they face? Scrolling down. They had to play the New York Mets again? Wait a minute, they just played the New York Mets last week. They did! A week ago, the Rockies faced the Mets in Citi Field in New York. Now they're facing each other again, but only this time it's in Colorado. What? What kind of schedule is this? They're not in the same division. If they were in the same division, okay, well, division games are important. Why? I don't get that. Playing each other back-to-back weeks, the weekends. What is this? Sometimes sports schedules just doesn't make sense. And yes, if you follow these episodes, a lot of times I would criticize their schedule, and I'm not the only one. You know who else does it? Mad Dog Russo. Christopher Mad Dog Russo on SiriusXM. In my opinion, the best sports talk show right now. He is my favorite. If I have to pick one sports talk show to listen to, it would be him. It would be him. He's my number one favorite. And that's what he does sometimes. He would criticize the schedule. And every time he does, I completely agree with him. It's like, yeah, I don't understand. Why is this game, like, yeah, the NBA Finals, why is Game 2 on Saturday night or Sunday night instead of Saturday night, you know? Okay, well, the Colorado Rockies, they were 10-50 before their series against the Miami Marlins. They were 10-50. Now, as I speak, They are 12-51. 25 and a half games behind the LA Dodgers. The second worst team, the Chicago White Sox. They've won some games. They're 21-43. Okay. And 5-tear. You're listening to this, your favorite team, the Chicago Cubs, are doing really good right now. They are winning the National League Central. So they have I think that team might be in the playoffs. You know, they got Kyle Tucker, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because Kyle Tucker was on the Houston Astros last year. Alex Bregman was also on the Houston Astros last year. Now he's playing for the Boston Red Sox. Speaking of the Red Sox, I heard that the Red Sox are not doing very well right now. They are 10.5 games behind the New York Yankees, and they are playing against the New York Yankees this weekend. So, hey, still got a long ways to go, you know. But these streaks, man, they're big. They are big here. The Atlanta Braves and the Marlins, they lost 5 in a row. I'm looking at the streaks of the MLB standings on ESPN, the ESPN app. So, yeah, that's huge. And I remember the Atlanta Braves, they lost their first 6 games of the season. Right now, the Braves are 27-35, 12 games behind the New York Mets. The New York Mets have the most wins, I believe. No, it's the Detroit Tigers. I think people are not talking enough about the Detroit Tigers. They are 42-23. Wow. Watch out for those hot Tigers. Man. Okay, so that's that. The MLB. My MLB news here. Let me see. Oh, crap. I'm on my phone here. Sometimes I'll get some baseball news on ESPN. Let me see here. If there's any other baseball news I want to share here. Back to the hockey real quick. Yeah, the breaking news, the Dallas Stars fired head coach Pete DeBoer after third straight conference final exit. I mean, what the heck? It sucks for that team that they can't get back to the Stanley Cup Final, but it's not like they didn't make the playoffs 3 years in a row. If that was the case, that would make sense. Anyways, we got, from Jeff Passan, the MLB insider. He says the Arizona Diamondbacks starter Corbin Burns will undergo Tommy John surgery. D-backs manager Torey Lovullo said Burns is in the first year of a 6-year, $210 million contract. Wow. Another great baseball pitcher getting Tommy John surgery. At this point, every great baseball pitcher gets that surgery. This year, Garrett Cole, the Yankees pitcher, he's out for the season because he's getting that Tommy John surgery. And when I heard that news, I was like, man, the Yankees, that's a huge loss because that is like their best pitcher. They may not be as good, but here they are. They're killing it. They are a great team. Aaron Judge is on fire. Yes, I always liked him. I remember a couple years ago he had that toe injury or his foot injury. That was huge. So somehow we might get a World Series rematch like we did in the Stanley Cup Final. If we do, then that's great. Because, again, New York versus LA, huge ratings. You know, the NBA Finals would have gotten more ratings if the New York Knicks were in it. No disrespect to the Indiana Pacers, but the reality is when a New York team is in a championship game, ratings are up. They're huge. Do you know how many people live in New York City? Yeah. There you go. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is the French Open final in tennis. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get to watch much tennis during the French Open. Years ago, I used to watch a lot more tennis. Now I don't watch it as much anymore. I think it's because it's a new era. It's not the same era from, 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I am still interested in tennis news thanks to Patrick McEnroe. I love listening to his podcast every Saturday called Holding Court on Mad Dog Sports Radio on SiriusXM. And Patrick McEnroe, he was there. He was one of the announcers on TNT with his brother John McEnroe, just like on ESPN. I don't know if they're going to be the announcers for the men's final. Usually they are on ESPN with Chris Fowler. The McEnroe brothers would be the announcers for the men's final. So I think they will be. If not, then it's going to be Brian Anderson and Jim Courier. Yes, Brian Anderson. The man that you heard not too long ago, he was calling some NBA playoff games on TNT. And he's also the voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. And in the postseason on TBS, he would be the main play-by-play for baseball postseason games on TBS. So it's either going to be him and Jim Courier or the McEnroe brothers. We shall see. I like both. I like all of them. And let me say this. The TNT True TV broadcast, I didn't get to watch much of it, but whenever I do, I was entertained. I really enjoyed their broadcast. A lot better than NBC and Peacock's coverage. Now, I've always liked NBC and Peacock's coverage, but it wasn't much of a coverage because they don't show you all the matches, like from the early matches to the, first ball to last ball, first point to last point. They don't do that. Well, TNT Sports does that, so that's great. I do miss Mary Carrillo, though. John McEnroe was with Mary Carrillo when the French Open was on NBC and Peacock. So yeah, we may not have the NBA on TNT anymore, but now we're getting the French Open on TNT every year. And, no more French Open on NBC, but the NBC is bringing back the NBA next season, so they kind of like swapped. So, but I will watch the final. I will. I have that recorded on YouTube TV, so I don't have to wake up early to watch it. I better not look on the internet. Better not get spoiled. It's so hard not to get spoiled. I'll try my best. If I do get spoiled, I'm not going to be upset about it. I do know who's in the finals. So you kind of knew the men's final. You kind of knew which players would be in the men's final. Same with the women's final, okay? The women's final is always first. So by the time you see this, the women's final came to an end. All right, so the women's final is number 1 seeded player Aryna Sabalenka against Coco Gauff. I think Coco Gauff's the 2nd seeded player, if not the 3rd seeded player. That's going to be a huge matchup. I remember they faced each other in the U.S. Open, United States Open final in 2023, which Coco won. And yeah, they've had some tough battles over the years. Obviously, I do want Coco Gauff to win because she is representing USA. But I don't think she's going to win. I have a feeling Sabalenka's going to win this match. She might win this match easily. I hope I'm wrong. I think she's going to win this in straight sets. But I don't think it'll be like a blowout. I think it'll be like maybe 2 tight sets, maybe. I don't know. But I think Sabalenka is going to win. She's just too good. On the men's side, oh my gosh, this is a huge matchup. I think everyone wanted this to be the final. And I kind of predicted that this is the final. Number 1 seeded player Jannik Sinner from Italy, taking on number 2 seeded player Carlos Alcaraz from Spain. This is a huge matchup. Is this their first time? Is this their first time meeting in a Grand Slam final? I want to say yes. I want to say yes. If it is, then wow. First time. It's about time, right? Man, Jannik Sinner, he was, in that 3-month suspension because of a illegal drug substance that he was using or something like that. Suspended for 3 months. He comes back. He's back a month later, right? It's only been 1 month since he came back from his suspension, and oh my gosh, it's like he never left. It's like he's better than ever. I think Sinner is going to win the French Open. Last year, Alcaraz won the French Open. I think this year it's Sinner's turn. And I think he's going to win this He might also win this in straight sets, but I'm going to say 4. I'm going to say he's going to win this in 4 sets. Okay? He's just too good. He is just too good. He beat Novak, the greatest of all time, in the semifinals in straight sets. Tough loss for Novak, but I got to give Novak credit because up until that semifinal match, he played outstanding tennis. For his age, he just turned 38 not too long ago, and he went to the semifinals as a 38-year-old. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, he lost in straight sets to the number 1 seeded player Jannik Sinner, but I think so has everyone else, But the fact that he went to the semifinals, 38, it's amazing, So they were asking him if this would be his final French Open, and who knows if it is? Who knows if it will be his final French Open? I predict that he will retire next year. I think next year might be his last year. Court Philippe Chatrier is the same venue where he won the gold medal, the Olympic gold medal from last year's Summer Olympics. So I'm glad he had his moment there. I think what he wants to do, and not too long ago, before the French Open began, he won his 100th singles title, which is amazing. I'm happy for him. I know a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason. I guess it's because he's Serbian, but I don't care what country you're from, you know? So, anyways, I think what he wants to do before he retires is to win one more Grand Slam. And I mentioned this before. He has the most singles Grand Slam in men's tennis, but not of all time ever in tennis. He is tied with Margaret Court. Margaret Court is a female tennis player from the old days, back when they were using like wooden rackets. Somehow she won 24 Grand Slams. No disrespect to her, but obviously you can't compare men's tennis to women's tennis. You can't compare today's men's tennis to 1960s, 70s women's tennis. You know what I'm saying? But I know Novak, he wants to win one more Grand Slam. And Wimbledon's coming up. He's usually great in grass. He's been to the final so many times. He might go back to the final again, but he doesn't want to face Sinner. He doesn't want to face Sinner again. I know he doesn't want to face Alcaraz as well, but I don't know. But we'll see here. This final itself is going to be a huge matchup, but I think it's Sinner's turn to shine on the clay court. I would call him Sinner the winner. Get it? Because it rhymes. Yeah. So I'll try to watch those. But like I said, the French Open is my least favorite Grand Slam tournament out of the four majors. The French Open is my least favorite, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. I enjoyed it, but you know, for this year I didn't get to watch much because of other things going on. But it is what it is. So, anyways, so we got that, and TNT once again has done a fantastic job. Their first year covering the French Open. It's like they should have done that years ago. Alright, the big thing happening later today is the horse racing Belmont Stakes. The last big horse racing event of the Triple Crown, even though we're not going to get a Triple Crown winner this year. But I usually do watch the Belmont Stakes. Unfortunately, you know, the past 2 years, Fox has hosted the Belmont Stakes, and before that, it was on NBC, and before that, it was on ABC for a long time. But when I started watching it, it was on NBC. I wasn't part of the ABC era. That was, a lot of those years was before I was alive. But I really enjoyed NBC's coverage of the three big races of the Triple Crown. And then 2 years ago, Fox had the rights to broadcast the Belmont Stakes, and when I watched their coverage, it was just like totally different. It's not as entertaining as NBC's coverage. You just knew that it wasn't going to be as good as NBC's coverage. And then the Belmont Stakes race, the broadcast was terrible. Like, the great Tom Durkin came back, legendary great horse racing announcer. He came back and we couldn't hear him. It's like, what the heck? I want to hear him. Like, somehow Fox messed up the audio. And then last year, they kind of did the same thing, but it wasn't as bad as 2023. So here we are again, 2025. Fox is going to be hosting it again. I'll watch that live. I will watch that live. I know, when NBC hosted it, it was on Peacock, so I didn't have to watch it live. This one, I will watch it live. Because there's nothing else happening in the afternoon in sports big sporting events. So I think I will watch that live. All right. Now, for the Belmont Stakes race itself, they're gonna have Sovereignty, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, and I believe they're gonna have the Preakness Stakes winner, Journalism, in it. Yes, yep. I'm looking at the card. I'm looking at the field. Yep, both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness winner are in the Belmont Stakes. So that's great. That is great, because without those horses, I think less people would watch the Belmont Stakes. So we are having a rematch 1 month later, a rematch from the Kentucky Derby. Sovereignty and Journalism. Okay, so there's going to be 8 horses on the field. Familiar trainers and jockeys. Let's see, jockeys. Oh, Mike Smith. I thought Mike Smith retired. Mike Smith is like almost 60 years old. Yeah, and he's gonna be he's in this? He's in the Belmont? He won the Triple Crown with Justify back in 2018. That was awesome. He's in this. He's gonna be riding a horse named Rodriguez, and who is the trainer? Bob Baffert. Wow. Okay, John Velasquez, another familiar jockey. Wow, Todd Pletcher has 2 horses running in the Belmont. Wow, that's crazy. He has 2 horses running in the Belmont. Chad Brown, another familiar trainer. Bill Mott, the trainer of the Kentucky Derby winner. And of course, Michael McCarthy, the trainer of the Preakness winner, Journalism. Let's see, the favorite. Who's the favorite? Is Journalism the favorite? It's either Journalism or Sovereignty. Journalism is the number 1 favorite. Sovereignty is number 2. Okay. Let me check the weather, because usually the weather is the key factor. The Kentucky Derby, it was raining. The track was sloppy. The Preakness Stakes, it was not raining. The track was fast. Let me look up the weather. It's going to be in New York. The New York weather. It's going to be cloudy, I think. I don't think it's going to rain. I don't think it's going to rain, so that's good. It usually doesn't rain at the Belmont Stakes. A lot of years when I watch it, it usually doesn't rain. It's usually a nice sunny day. So, I believe, I don't know what time post time is for the Belmont. The Kentucky Derby and Preakness, it was at 6 p.m. I assume it's going to be the same thing for the Belmont, 6 p.m. Central. So, I think this is going to be very interesting. You got a horse that won the Kentucky Derby that didn't run in the Preakness. Then you have a horse that was in both the Kentucky Derby, who came in second, and then he went on to win the Preakness 2 weeks later. This will be very interesting to watch. I hope Journalism wins. I hope Journalism wins. I really don't know. This is like a coin flip. This is very interesting. This is very interesting. This is like a coin flip. I don't know. I would like to see Journalism win the Belmont, but maybe neither horse will win. Maybe neither horse. Maybe one of Todd Pletcher's horses will win, or maybe somehow Rodriguez will win with Mike Smith and Bob Baffert. I don't know. I'll make my prediction. I'll go with Journalism. Journalism gets revenge on Sovereignty. Yes. So I will definitely watch that. All right? And hopefully, the Fox broadcast for the actual Belmont Stakes race, the main event race, I hope the audio isn't terrible. 2023, it was garbage. You couldn't even hear Tom Durkin. Last year, it was still pretty garbage. It's not as bad, but come on, this is 2025. That should not be happening, you know. Oh well. You know, NBC, their coverage was great. You know, I gotta charge my laptop. Excuse me while I plug this in here. Alright, there we go. Alright. Okay. So, it should be interesting. Now listen. The Kentucky Derby had a sloppy track because of the rain. What if it wasn't raining? What if the track wasn't sloppy? What if the track was fast? And I think journalism would have won. I think journalism would have won the Kentucky Derby if the track wasn't sloppy. Because I heard at the time, journalism has never ran in a sloppy track. That was the first sloppy track that he ran on. And he did great. He came in second, but I think he would have won if the track wasn't sloppy. So I believe the track should be fast for this year's Belmont. It usually is whenever I watch it. So I'm going with journalism. And I hope that horse wins and gets revenge on Sovereignty. This is like 1978 with Affirmed and Alidar. Yeah, my gosh, that was crazy. Yeah, go watch that Belmont Stakes, 1978. It was crazy. Yeah, that was their rivalry. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is the shirt that I'm wearing. In case if you don't know what shirt I'm wearing, I am wearing my favorite CFL team, Montreal Alouettes. Yes! CFL, Canadian football, is back. Yes. I always look forward to this because this might sound weird. The CFL is my number one favorite sports league. It really is. It really is. And I know it sounds weird to you because I live nowhere near Canada, but I love watching it. I love it. I love the broadcast. I love the game itself. It never disappoints me. So yeah, I have a Fire Stick, okay? Amazon Fire Stick. And my brother, he got me one of these illegal streaming apps, okay? I don't know how he got it, but he paid for it. He has to pay for it monthly. No, every 6 months, I think. He pays it every 6 months. I don't know how much, but basically this app, it has a ton of channels all over the world. And you know, I'm a big sports fan, as y'all know, and I got the TSN channels, you know? TSN is basically the Canadian version of ESPN. Alright? So, that's how I became a fan. That is how I became a fan of the CFL. Okay? I love it. So yeah, this is really like my third year watching the CFL. Okay? And every year I would watch the broadcasts, or the Grey Cup. Okay? So I started watching some Grey Cups live. I think I watched one from like 2017, 2018, or 2019, or two out of those 3 years. I remember I watched that live, but I didn't have TSN back then. I didn't have an Amazon Fire Stick back then. I had Cox Cable, and they were showing it on ESPN2. So when I watched that, I was entertained. And then 2020, there was no season because of COVID. Yeah, Canada, they were really strict on for COVID, you know. So then 2021, the season came back, but it was a shorter season. CFL normally begins their regular season in June, but it didn't start until August. It started like 2 months later because of COVID, you know. So they played a shorter season. I think it was like I'm not sure how many games they played. It might have been 10 games. They normally play 18 regular season games. Yeah, they play one more regular season game than the NFL. And the NFL has 32 teams, and the CFL has 9 teams. Yeah, so, but yeah, I love the CFL. It just never disappoints me, you know. So, yeah, that's how I became a fan. I became a fan of the CFL because I have the TSN channels, the Canadian version of ESPN, and I love watching the Canadian Sports Center more than the American Sports Center, you know, because Canada's favorite sport is hockey. It is, okay? And that's really where I get my hockey news from, like during the regular season. During the regular season, ESPN doesn't really talk about hockey, even though ESPN is one of the networks to broadcast NHL games, and it's weird that they don't talk about it much, but now they are because it's the Stanley Cup Final. But you know, if it's like a November NHL regular season Saturday night, they would talk about it. TSN, they would talk about it. They'll show a lot of highlights, analysis. You know, it is great, man. It's fantastic. So, yeah. Okay, now let's play. I'm gonna play the let's play the American Truck Simulator. All right. Soundtrack. Y'all just heard the old 18 Wheels of Steel soundtracks because Eric Super Magnificent's YouTube channel did a lot of live streams of those games. Now, that channel's back with American Truck Simulator. So anyways, yeah, back to the CFL. The CFL is my #1 favorite sports league. Yes, if I have to pick one sports league to watch, it would be that one. I know. And yes, I know none of my favorite sports talk podcasts talk about the CFL, and that's completely fine because it's a Canadian football league, you know? Now the UFL, I have a problem that no sports talk podcasts are mentioning it. UFL's in America. And yeah, I know the UFL is still a brand new league, but like, you can't even like, they're not even mentioning it. They may not even mention the UFL championship game. We'll talk about the UFL in a little bit. But yes, the CFL, the Canadian Football League, has begun. All right. It started on Thursday night. There was a game on Thursday night. Now, you know how the NFL, they would do their first regular season game, which is also a Thursday night. They would have the Super Bowl champions hosting the first regular season game. Well, they don't do that in the CFL. It's random, okay? The Grey Cup champions is the Toronto Argonauts, and they were playing on the road. They were not playing at home in week 1, okay? So the first game of the CFL this season, week 1, It was the Ottawa Redblacks against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now, I didn't watch this game, but I listened to this game on radio. Yeah, I did. I listened to this game on the radio after the NBA Finals. Okay? This game was still going on. This game started at 8 p.m. Central. Okay? So I listened like the last 30 minutes of the game, which is mainly the fourth quarter. And man, yes, SiriusXM, they have some Canadian channels, and they would have the CFL radio broadcast on SiriusXM. So that's amazing. All right. Now this game was great. All right. Again, I didn't get to watch the game, but I mainly listened to the fourth quarter. But when I tuned in, the Ottawa or the Rough Riders, Saskatchewan Roughriders, they were winning 31-14 after the third quarter. So Ottawa had to make a comeback, and that's what they did. They made this game close. And Saskatchewan didn't score any points in the fourth quarter, but the Redblacks made this game close. But the Rough Riders, they held on to win by a score of 31-26. All right. Now, that was the first game. The second game was last night, Friday night. The rivalry between the Grey Cup champions, Toronto Argonauts, against my favorite team, the Montreal Alouettes. So you're probably wondering, why are the Alouettes my favorite team? Because, okay, so the city of Montreal, they speak French, okay? A lot of people speak French there. And I used to take French classes there for 10 years straight. Yeah, while I was growing up, I took a lot of French classes. And I like the Montreal Alouettes uniforms and their logo. I do. And I like their fans. And even though the Alouettes, they have the smallest stadium, but their stadium doesn't sound like it is a small stadium because there was a lot of people there, okay? So, and that's basically how I became a fan of the Alouettes, you know, and I was really happy when they won the Grey Cup in 2023. Yeah. In 2023, that was really like the first year where I watched it full time. The CFL, I watched that full time. In 2022, I got into it until college football season began. Yeah, college football drugged me out of the CFL. Yep, I know. And I was watching the CFL part-time because of college football. So then the following year in 2023, I told myself, well, I'm not going to do that again. Let's try to watch CFL full-time. And that's what I did. And I'm glad I did that. And I did it again last year, and I'm going to do it again this year. So, yeah. This game I did watch. I watched this game live, okay? Here's what I did. You know how you can watch two things at once on two different devices? Yeah, people do that. Well, that's what I did in this room. So I was watching that game, CFL game, and the Stanley Cup Final Game 2 at the same time. Let me show you a little behind the scenes here if you're watching. So I'm in this room, okay? Y'all remember my early episodes were recorded, me sitting at the bar, right? But look at this. This is what I did. Yes, you see that TV? That big TV in the corner? That is my bedroom TV. Yes, I moved it to this room, and it's the perfect size. It's the perfect fit for that table right there. That little one that's not on, that is my old bedroom TV. It still works, but the picture isn't as great. And then I got this one hanged up, mounted on the wall, high up there. So, the CFL game, I was watching it on the smaller TV, mounted on the wall. And the big TV, I was watching the Stanley Cup Final game too, because that's more important. I usually put something on the big TV, whichever one is more important. In this case, the Stanley Cup Final is more important because it is the Stanley Cup Final. And in my opinion, the Stanley Cup Final has the best trophy in sports. I think it is. I mean, if you're a hockey fan, you will say that it is. I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I do enjoy watching it whenever I do watch it. And yeah, the Stanley Cup is the best trophy in sports. And down here, oh my gosh, it's playing an Eric Super Magnificent video. Yeah, this is a small TV that I got at Best Buy. Okay, and this TV has a Fire Stick built into it. Yes. Here's the TV remote. Looks like a Fire Stick TV remote, right? But look, it has the brand name of the TV. So yes, Eric Super Magnificent was premiering a video last night. So I technically watched 3 things at once. Yeah, I technically watched 3 things at once. It worked out. However, did I have the sound on all 3 devices? No, I only had the sound on. Well, I had the CFL game on first because that game was on first. Okay, it was on like almost an hour before the Stanley Cup Final game began. So I was listening to the CFL broadcast first, but then when the Stanley Cup broadcast started, when the puck dropped, I was listening to that broadcast. Yeah. So, anyways, back to the CFL. The Alouettes, they played an amazing game, and they won by a score of 28-10. They got revenge, rematch from the East Final. Okay. So, there was a doubleheader. 2 games on Saturday night. The first one at 6 p.m. Central. The Hamilton Tiger Cats at the Calgary Stampeders. And then after that game, it's the Edmonton Elks at the BC Lions. I didn't make any of my predictions yet because usually CFL, it's a different season, you know. It's a different season from last season. The Montreal Alouettes, they don't have Cody Fajardo anymore. Their former quarterback. Cody Fajardo. Oops, I spelled his name wrong. I believe he is on he's either on the Edmonton Elks or the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Okay, it says in December of 2024, he was traded from the Montreal Alouettes to the Edmonton Elks. Okay, so he is now playing for the Edmonton Elks. I've always liked him. He's a cool guy. I was so happy that he won the Grey Cup for the Alouettes last year. They were on a great, huge winning streak, and then he got injured. I believe it was a hamstring injury. Let me see if Wikipedia says it. Let's see. It says he returned to the Alouettes starter in 2024, winning his first 5 games before suffering an injury Doesn't say what kind of injury in the team's sixth game against the Toronto Argonauts. Fajardo missed the next 4 games, which is like a month, before returning to the starting role, sharing starters and playing time with Davis Alexander. Okay, is Davis Alexander the current Alouettes quarterback? He is, okay. Now I know. So, Davis Alexander is the current Montreal Alouettes quarterback, and he played great. And they still have Tyson Philpott. Philpott is the man who made that game-winning touchdown catch in the Grey Cup of 2023. So, now the CFL has 9 teams, which means every week a team has a bye. A team doesn't play every week, and in this case it is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the team that lost 3 consecutive Grey Cups. Yeah, it's kind of weird. They won the Grey Cup in 2019 and 2021, and there was no season in 2020, so they technically won the Grey Cup back-to-back seasons. But then they lost the next 3 Grey Cups, 2022, 23, and 24. So they played next Thursday of next week against the BC Lions. All right. I didn't do any of my predictions because, like I said, it's a new season. Maybe I'll do my predictions next in week 2, maybe week 3, because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers haven't played their game yet. So, and also, I like the CFL on TSN. However, it's actually a new era. It's a new era for the CFL on TSN. I say that because a few reasons. Number one, first of all, they got new graphics. Mainly a new score bug. Yeah, they introduced a new score bug. Normally they do that every 4 years. Their previous score bug was introduced in 2021, so that was a good 4 years ago. Here's the weird thing is, I like this. I like the new score bug, but it's totally different from the previous 2 score bugs. So it's gonna take some time for me to get used to it. And here's the weird thing: it's a different score bug, a different look, but they're also using the same graphics from their previous score bug. I find that weird. But the one thing I do like about the score bug is that it's bigger, and I think it's more nicer. It looks similar. This score bug, if you're wondering what it looks like, this score bug looks similar to NBC's football score bug. College football and Sunday Night Football looks similar. And it also looks similar to the SEC on ABC score bug. Yeah, I like those score bugs. I really like the SEC on ABC score bug. That's my favorite. That's my current favorite college football score bug. And they might as well have that score bug for all of the other games on ESPN, ACC Network, SEC Network. I mean, why not? It's all part of ESPN. ABC's part of ESPN. They might as well use that. You'll hear me talk about that again once the college football season begins. But yeah, it's a new era on TSN. Not only for the new graphics, the new score bug, but hey, I was watching the Friday Night Football game. You know who joined the team? Luke Wilson. Luke Wilson joined the team. Luke Wilson used to be a Seattle Seahawk, and he was on the Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl winning team over 10 years ago. He's a great guy, kind of a funny, goofy guy, especially when he's with Jay Onrait. Jay Onrait is a Sports Center anchor on TSN. He is my favorite, and that was my first time. It's his first time seeing him calling or part of the CFL broadcast team, so that's cool. He's going to be doing, I guess he's going to be doing both CFL and NFL, just like Davis Sanchez. Davis Sanchez is a CFL and an NFL analyst. Wow, in the studio. So that's cool. Not many guys can do both. Oh, another guy that does both, Booger McFarland. He does both college football and the NFL. Yeah, I know. So, it's a new era on TSN. We got some sad news. We have some sad news. The first sad news I want to... It's for both. It's both part of the CFL on TSN. Let me just say... Let me get a drink of water first. I'm just remembering these as they pop into my head. I read about these earlier. If you do watch the CFL on TSN, then you probably heard the news, or you read the news, that everyone's favorite analyst, Matt Dunnigan, is no longer part of the team. Damn. Matt Dunnigan is no longer part of the CFL on TSN. That's a shame, man. That's a shame. Everyone likes him, including me. He's my favorite. I mean, I like all the people of the CFL on TSN, but Matt Dunnigan is like the man to listen to. He's been doing it for a long time, and I didn't know he's gonna not do it anymore. I tried to find a reason why he's not gonna do it anymore, but I couldn't find a reason. Maybe, I know he's getting older, he's like in his 60s. Maybe he just doesn't want to do it anymore. But man, I've always liked him. He's a great guy. He's got that voice, and kind of like that scratchy voice of his. Yeah, because when I saw her name, Kate Burness, and the others, normally they would have 4 people at the desk, and normally, a lot of times Matt Dunnigan is there, but they only had 3 people at the desk. And I'm like, wait, where's Matt Dunnigan? Where's Milt Stegall? And by the way, yes, I do know what happened to Milt Stegall. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Matt Dunnigan, it's a shame that he's not going to be part of the team anymore. I hope somehow he can come back. Maybe he can make like some special appearances from time to time. I hope we can still see him, you know? I hope we can still see him. Okay, now it's going to be playing the Euro Truck Simulator soundtracks, and then after that, I should be done. I should be done talking by the time all these soundtracks are done playing. But, yeah, man, it's a shame. Matt Dunnigan, not part of the CFL on TSN studio show. And he's also an announcer as well. I would see him in the booth as an announcer. So again, I don't know what the reason is why he's no longer on CFL on TSN, but damn, that's a shame that we're not going to see him. But I hope somehow he can come back. Maybe he can come back for the Grey Cup. Okay. So, and I didn't know. It was just like a kind of a shocking news that, he's not going to be part of the team. So, he will be missed. He will be missed. To Milt Stegall. He was not there as well, and the reason why he was not there on the pregame show this is really sad news, and I didn't know about this until Jay Onright said what happened. Somehow, this is crazy. Milt Steagle's son passed away. And I think he was like about, his son, he's about my age. I think he's a little younger. I'm like, oh my gosh. That's just the worst thing, man. A parent losing their child, man. My thoughts and prayers are with Milt and the Steagle family. I've always liked them as well. I don't know if we're going to see him in next week's for week 2. I don't know. He might take some time off. I think he will. But that is sad, man. That's so sad. Milt Steagle's son passed away. And you know what? I know it's kind of a sad way to start the CFL on TSN. You know, no more Matt Dunnigan and Milt Steagle's son passing away. You know, last year, when the CFL came back last year, I remember James Duthie, I think that's his last name, in the CFL pregame show, the first thing he said was, basically what happened last year, legendary SportsCenter anchor Darren Detition passed away. TSN SportsCenter on TSN anchor Darren Detition passed away last year. And I remember when James Duthie broke the news, the first thing he said when the CFL came back last year, he basically said, our thoughts and prayers are with, we have some very sad news. Darren Detition, longtime co-worker, longtime great friend, SportsCenter, big CFL fan, has passed away. And then when I heard that news, I was in shock. I was in shock. I still can't believe. You know, I looked him up earlier tonight because this is like this is like 1 year since I heard that announcement that he passed away. He had prostate cancer. Man, he's dearly missed. He's really dearly missed. And I remember seeing him sometimes on TSN, SportsCenter. And I remember he was at the Grey Cup. He was doing the trophy presentation, the Grey Cup of 2022. Oh, man. And now here we are a year later, Milt Steagle's son passing away to begin the CFL on TSN 2025. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's sad news. I'm sure Milt Steagle, he is still part of the CFL on TSN, by the way. We may not see him for a while, I don't know. But, man, Milt Steagle, he played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Yeah, I forgot one more thing I want to mention for Matt Dunnigan. Matt Dunnigan, he actually played quarterback for Louisiana Tech. Yeah, Matt Dunnigan is not Canadian, he's American. But he played for the CFL. He's a great CFL quarterback. And then he became a CFL studio and color commentator analyst, and he did that for over 25 years, I think. And now he's no longer on it. Just some shocking news, like, what the heck? Yeah. It's like, in my opinion, he is the man to listen to. But CFL on TSN is still going to be great. You got Luke Wilson, part of the Friday Night Football team broadcast. You know, Rod Smith, Glenn Suter, they're still the main announcers. I've always liked them. Rod Smith, he's like the Chris Fowler of the CFL. I've always liked Rod Smith and Chris Fowler. They're kind of alike, you know. To me, they're kind of alike. Chris Fowler, the voice of college football on ESPN. Rod Smith, the voice of the CFL on TSN. They have a secondary announcer. His name is Dustin Nielsen, I believe, and he is awesome. I really like him. So, when Rod Smith decides to retire, not broadcasting CFL games anymore, Dustin Nielsen needs to be his successor. He needs to be the number one play-by-play announcer whenever Rod Smith decides that he's not going to do it anymore. Because they're both great. Especially when Dustin Nielsen gets excited, man. Oh my God, it's so funny. It makes me laugh whenever he gets super excited. He's kind of like, I don't know, young Gus Johnson, for example. Yeah, remember Gus Johnson for Fox? Yeah. Oh, man. So, I'm glad my favorite announcers are still there. Okay. But, yeah, I'm still going to be locked in on the CFL. So, yeah. Great start for the Montreal Alouettes. And I believe... I might try to watch tonight's games. If not, that's fine. I can either watch their highlights on YouTube, or sometimes they would broadcast the replay late at night. Sometimes. So, I'll see. We'll see what happens once the games come on. Alright, more football talk. The United Football League, the UFL. My gosh, this is a huge episode, guys, I know. There was so much to talk about. That's why, you know, I missed Friday, so had to talk about the Stanley Cup Final Game 2, and I had to write down a list. I had to write down a list of all the things that I wanted to talk about. All right, we're almost done. The UFL, it's going to be their conference championship games, both on Sunday. Okay. All right. I don't know why it's both on Sunday. Was it like that last year? I forgot. It's kind of weird that they're both on Sunday. And the UFL championship game is next Saturday night. You know, I remember last year's UFL championship game, it was on a Sunday, Father's Day. But it was on Fox. This year, it's on ABC. Yeah, I think they alternate. They take turns. The reason why last year's UFL game was on Father's Day, Sunday on Fox, was because they could not have it on Saturday night. And the reason why they couldn't have it on Saturday night was because Fox does that Saturday night baseball, Night in America, you know. So, and probably next Sunday, there's probably going to be an NBA Finals game on that date, probably. But yeah, but it's kind of weird though that we're having both the conference championship games on Saturday, you know, or excuse me, Sunday. Yeah. I don't know. I forget if it was like that last year's or not. But because remember, you know how Fox, they would usually host they would broadcast a Friday night game, you know? So I know Fox is going to be a big day for Fox. Belmont Stakes. Then after that, it's going to be the Boston Red Sox at the New York Yankees. Yeah, they do that on purpose. After the Belmont Stakes coverage, the New York Yankees would play a game at Yankee Stadium on Fox. Yeah, they do that on purpose. Because it's New York, you know. So, but man, we could, like, near the beginning, or a while ago in this episode, I asked, why isn't the NBA Finals why isn't Game 2 on Saturday night? It's on Sunday night. What are they showing on Saturday night? What is ABC showing on Saturday night? It's not the UFL game, because that's on Sunday, you know? So I don't know. But you know what? I'm fine. I'm fine with them having both UFL games on Sunday. I'm glad that there wasn't one on Friday night, because Friday night was the CFL game and the Stanley Cup Final, Game 2. And then Saturday is a doubleheader for the CFL. Sunday, no CFL game. So yeah, why not have the doubleheader on Sunday? So that works for me. That works for me. So I will watch these games. I think I will watch these games live because it's the conference championship games, the games to go into the UFL championship game. All right. So here are the games here. The first one, Sunday afternoon, 2 p.m. on ABC, Michigan Panthers at the Birmingham Stallions. Joe Tessitore and Jordan Rogers will be the announcers. They're great. They're also going to be the announcers for the UFL championship game. All right. This is a huge matchup. I want the Michigan Panthers to win. I don't want to see the Birmingham Stallions go to the UFL championship game again, so I will cheer for the Panthers. But the game is in Birmingham. And now this is going to be weird because the game is going to be very hot, right? Because, you know, Birmingham's in Alabama. It's hot in Alabama in the summer. Let's see what the temperature is going to be. Sunday. Oh, it's probably going to rain. You're probably going to have some rain. Or it's probably going to be cloudy. Oh, so it's not going to be as hot. Okay, it's not going to be in the 90s. It's going to be in the 80s. Okay. I've got a feeling that the Stallions are going to win this game. I think they are going to win this game. I hope I'm wrong, though. I will cheer for the Panthers. Yeah, we got Carolina Panthers in the NFL, Michigan Panthers in the UFL, and the Florida Panthers of the NHL. So, I think the Stallions will win. The over or under 46.5. I'm going to take the under on that one. Okay. That should be a good game, though. I don't see this game being a blowout. Same with the other game, the XFL Conference Championship game, 5 p.m. on Fox. The DC Defenders at the St. Louis Battlehawks. Yes. And those two teams, they faced each other a week ago. Now they got to do it again. This time it'll be in St. Louis. And I have to pick St. Louis in this one. They have the best fans. I think they're going to do it this time. Last year, the Battlehawks were in the XFL Conference Championship game, but they came up short. I don't see that happening again, so I'm going to pick them to win. The over is over-under 47.5. I'm going to go with the over. It's an indoor stadium. I think they could score a lot of points. So, in the finals, I have the UFL Championship game. I have the Birmingham Stallions against the St. Louis Battlehawks, and you know who I'm going to cheer for, which team I'm going to cheer for in that game. If the Battlehawks win the XFL Conference Championship game, we have to cheer for them, right? Because the championship game is in St. Louis. Yeah, so they need to get in. They need to get in the UFL championship game. So that way they would get more ratings, okay? So it's going to be better than last year's, that's for sure. Anyways, so that's that. Do y'all remember last week I did my first ever live stream of me watching a football, the other football, soccer. Yeah, I watched the UEFA, whatever that's called, Champions League final. And I did a watch along. I did a live stream of me watching the game because someone wanted me to. Maybe I'll do another one of me watching the UFL Conference Championship games. If not, then definitely for the UFL Championship game next Saturday night. Alright? So, any other breaking news here? Well, I do have my own breaking news that I do remember that I want to talk about. What about from ESPN? Anything else? No, I don't think so. Okay. I'm gonna save this shocking news for last. Do you guys? Do any of y'all know who Michelle Beadle is? I do. Well, if you don't, Michelle Beadle is a big NBA fan, alright? She used to be on ESPN, the NBA on ESPN. She used to be the countdown host, I believe. Yeah. And then I forgot why she left ESPN or something happened. But she has a podcast along with her partner, Cody Decker. When I say partner, they're not dating each other. Yeah, they have a podcast called Beadle and Decker with Michelle Beadle and Cody Decker on SiriusXM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. It comes on at 11 a.m. Central to 2 p.m. Central. It's in between Shine on Sports with Adam Shine and Christopher Mad Dog Russo, Mad Dog Unleashed. Those are the three main shows that I would listen to on SiriusXM for sports talk. Okay? So I was actually listening to Cody and Decker, or Beadle and Decker, excuse me, the other day. And I like that show, but I'm not a huge fan of that show. But whenever I do listen to it, I would be entertained. And here's the cool thing about SiriusXM is that you don't have to listen to these shows live. You can listen to them on demand, okay? And whenever they release the episodes on demand, they have chapters. So if there's a certain part of the show that I don't really care about what they're talking about, I would skip that and go to the next chapter that I am interested in hearing them talk. Alright guys, sorry about that. I ran out of storage. Yeah, because this episode is super long. I'm about to hit 2 hours. This is the longest episode of me talking about sports. I did a 2-hour episode before, but it was me talking about how I got into the WWE pro wrestling. Speaking of that, Money in the Bank is tonight. I'm not really interested in Money in the Bank this year, but I'll hear about it on Busted Open, one of my other favorite podcasts to listen to. That's where I get my sports or my pro wrestling news. Yep, 2 hours episode 33 on how I got into the WWE. This is now going to be longer. Oh my gosh. We're going to witness history. This is now going to be the longest episode on KSN. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I decided to move back into my bedroom to finish this up because I am really tired. Alright. So, last thing, and I was about to finish anyways, probably in a couple of minutes, but I didn't realize how low my storage was. But I have more storage so I can kind of talk a little bit longer. Anyways, back to the topic. Yes, Michelle Beadle has been fired from SiriusXM. That's just a bummer. Like, the worst time of the year, which is the NBA Finals. Like, you know, I was hoping to hear what they would have to say, and then, you know, after the NBA Finals, you know, I'll listen to them probably for one more week, and then I'll kind of take a break from their show. Yeah, and they didn't do a Friday episode. She got fired on Thursday night, so they couldn't do a Friday show. So what about Cody Decker? Is he fired as well? Because it's mainly about Michelle Beadle. It's really strange. But I was looking on my PC that the show that is replacing Beadle and Decker is called Dog Days or Dog Day Sports. Because the reason why it's called that is because it's on the channel called Mad Dog Sports Radio. The description of this replacement show is: hear the latest in the world of sports weekdays at noon Eastern on Dog Days on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll listen to that. Still got Shine on Sports and Mad Dog Unleashed. I don't know if they addressed it. I don't know if they addressed this situation because I didn't get a chance to listen to their Friday episodes, but I still can because it's on demand. But wow. Out of nowhere, Michelle Beadle fired from SiriusXM. And that show, Beadle and Decker, has only been around for almost 2 years. They started, I believe, in August of 2023, so almost 2 years, but that's not very long for a podcast. There's podcasts that have been going on for a long time, you know. But this podcast, they go live from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, 3 hours on the weekdays. So that is a lot of episodes. It's a lot of talking. And it's a show where people can call in. I've never called in. I've never called in to any show. The reason why is because I don't listen to the shows live. I mainly listen to them the following day. And I like to hear what the other callers have to say as well. If I ever call in, I will let you know. There is another show that is also on from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. And I'm not talking about the Pat McAfee show. I don't listen to that show. I'm not a Pat McAfee fan, to be honest with you. Even though he gets all the guests, somehow Pat McAfee can get any guests he wants. The reason why I'm not really I'm not really into that show is because that show has like four guys on it. I'm not really a fan of big group podcasts. Unless if the show is like 30 minutes to an hour, but 3 hours, I don't want to listen to that. Once in a while, I might watch a video of the Pat McAfee show. The last one I watched, though, was they had Dwayne The Rock Johnson. They were of him explaining why he wasn't at this year's WrestleMania. But so yeah, I'm not talking about the Pat McAfee show. I'm talking about the Rich Eisen show. Yes, the Rich Eisen show is also from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, 3 hours. It's mainly a football talk show. I've always liked Rich Eisen. I mean, Rich Eisen, he works for the NFL Network. It's mainly a football show. Another podcast that I just added to my library is the Mike Francesa podcast. Mike Francesa, been around a long time. He used to be with Christopher Russo. Francesa and Russo, they used to do a podcast together in the old days. And that was like the show to listen to back then. I was reading about that at the time. So, I'll have to do an episode on all my favorite sports podcasts, or because I wrote down all my favorites, even though I kind of talked about that back in December, but over the months I've added like some new ones to my library. So yeah, I have SiriusXM, Amazon Music, and the ESPN app. That's where I listen to a bunch of these podcasts. And I don't listen to all of them every day. I would listen to some of them almost every day, mainly the weekdays, sometimes the weekends. But anyways, back to Michelle Beadle. So, I'm looking up why she got fired. So I'm on a website called Awful Announcing. Okay? So it says here, SiriusXM fires Michelle Beadle and Cody Decker. So Cody Decker is also fired. Wow. One day after Stephen A. Smith announcement. Holy crap. I think I know what the Stephen A. Smith announcement is, because sometimes I listen to the Stephen A. Smith show on Amazon Music. And I think it was earlier this week, I think he said that he made a deal with SiriusXM that he's going to have his own show later this year. I think it's going to be at the beginning of this year's NFL season. But what the heck, like, all right, let's just keep reading. I'm going to keep reading this article. It looks like changes to SiriusXM's Mad Dog Radio are coming quicker than anticipated. Following an announcement earlier this week that Stephen A. Smith had signed a new deal with SiriusXM's Mad Dog Radio that will see the always on ESPN host anchor yet more programming. Yeah, because he's always on First Take in the mornings, right? From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central. He has his podcast on YouTube, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay. So it also, and he's also an NBA analyst. He travels a lot during the NBA season. Then it also says here, it became apparent that based on the hour Smith would be taking over, someone's show was about to get the axe. That show would be Beadle and Decker, hosted by veteran sports media personalities Michelle Beadle and Cody Decker. So you're telling me that the Beadle and Decker show would have came to an end later this year because of the Stephen A. Smith announcement? Huh. And I didn't know that Stephen A. Smith was gonna have his show on Mad Dog Sports Radio, the channel. Listen, I know Stephen A. Smith, he signed like a huge deal with ESPN that he's staying with the network. I know, at this point, Stephen A. Smith, he's Mr. ESPN. You know? I know some people don't like him, and I kind of understand why they don't, but I've always liked Stephen A. Smith. I've always liked him. I find him entertaining. You know? I don't watch or listen to First Take every morning, but sometimes I would watch some videos, of the big topics that they would talk about. Oh, by the way, Shannon Sharp is no longer on ESPN. I don't think I ever addressed that. It was like a couple weeks ago or something like that, or like a month ago. Shannon Sharp got let go. That sucks. And now Michelle Beadle and Cody Decker are let go. What the heck is going on? Okay, let's keep reading here. Yeah, you normally don't hear me read articles, but this is huge news. It says Beadle was apparently blindsided by the news and had not received any indication from SiriusXM management that her show could be on the chopping block for a new Stephen A. Smith hosted program. So in the aftermath, she went scorched earth. On her show, Wednesday afternoon, Beadle began the program saying, "Welcome to the lame duck and who knew show here," as Deckard yelled, "Fired," in the background. I believe I did listen to that Wednesday episode. If y'all have SiriusXM, and if y'all did listen to that show for a while, was the Wednesday episode the one where that one caller called in saying that he was gonna host a Price is Right party themed or something like that? I think that was from Wednesday. Some caller called in, I forgot his name, but he said that he was gonna throw a party, the Price is Right themed party or something like that, for someone's birthday or something like that. I believe he said that on Wednesday's episode. And yeah, I believe it was Wednesday because they said that the Stanley Cup is tonight. Stanley Cup Game 1 was on Wednesday night. Okay, so I did listen to that episode. I didn't listen to Thursdays, which was their last episode, because I don't listen to these podcasts every day, because there's so many I added to my list. And this is how I got into doing my own podcast, All right. Okay. And then it says, quote, "All I ask is to be treated with respect," Beadle continued. I don't remember them saying that. But they really did, apparently. Quote, "Here we are. We're going to do our shows because we're contractually obligated to be here." And then it says, but Beadle's cordiality didn't last long. Following her afternoon program on Wednesday, Beadle spoke with front office sports and directly attacked Stephen A. Smith, saying she doesn't respect the ESPN host. So that's the main reason why she got fired. If she never said that, then obviously the Beadle and Decker podcast would still be a thing. I wonder if she knew she was going to get fired after that. Okay, then she also said, quote, "I don't respect his work. He doesn't like me." The heck? Okay. This goes back to the Ray Rice stuff. Ray Rice? I remember Ray Rice, the former Baltimore Raven player. I mean, this is like over 10 years ago. What the heck? So they've never got along for the past 10 years? Okay. So she continued by saying, "He made some really piggish comments on the air. I responded. He got suspended for like 2 weeks. I think that was sort of the beginning of the end for anything," she said. "I just don't respect him. I think he gets things wrong all the time. I'm not talking about opinions. Those can never be wrong. But factually, when you spread yourself so thin, it's hard to be right. Not a fan." Wow. Well. What about, did Cody Decker said anything? Then it says, however, Beadle did mention in that interview that her and Decker would continue to show up. Turns out that won't be necessary. According to Andrew Marchand of The Athletic, SiriusXM has officially parted ways with Beadle and Decker. And then the last thing it says it's unclear what Mad Dog Radio will do in the meantime, as Smith's contract does not begin until September, which is the NFL season. What the heck? So it sounds to me that the Beadle and Decker podcast was going to come to an end in a couple of months because of the new Stephen A. Smith deal. Listen, I think a lot of people enjoyed the Beadle and Decker podcast. I've enjoyed it. Wow. That's a shame, man. That's a shame. I mean, I like Stephen A. I respect him. That is a shame. They couldn't let the Beadle and Decker podcast continue until September. That sucks. And then the show gets canceled right when the NBA Finals began. What the heck? Man. Now, Cody Decker, he never said anything. That sucks that he got fired too. Yeah, I don't know if Adam Shine or Christopher Russo, the two shows before and after Beetle and Decker. I don't know if they addressed this situation. Maybe not, because they were probably told, hey, don't talk about Michelle Beadle. Nope. Oh, man. Well, I have no words. It's just that I was really hoping to hear what they would have to say of the NBA Finals, especially after Game 1, you know. But, oh well. So yeah, I guess Michelle Beadle doesn't like Stephen A. Smith for the past 10 to 15 years. And I never knew that. I never knew that, you know. So, uh, so I don't know if she's gonna do her own podcast. What if she does her own podcast like me on YouTube? You can do that. I think Michelle and Cody are gonna stay together. They might do their. I'm sure they'll continue their podcast. It'll just be on a different platform with a different name. You know, instead of the show is called or was called Beetle and Decker, right? What if their new show is called Decker and Beetle? Oh man, that'd be weird. So Stephen A. Smith, he's gonna take over SiriusXM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, early afternoon in September. So I don't know. Is it gonna be like his? Is it gonna be the same Stephen A. Smith show, or is it gonna be like a NFL themed show? I don't know. Well, that was the last thing that I want to talk about. And you know what sucks? SiriusXM, they removed the show. Like, I can't even listen to their final episode. Like, wow. Dang. Well, sometimes in the entertainment business, sometimes your favorite personality gets fired. I know. Guess that's it. I believe I talked about everything. So I'll be back on Tuesday instead of Monday, because after this giant episode, I feel like I need an extra day off. I'll be back on Tuesday night. So we have Game 2 of the NBA Finals on Sunday night. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final on Monday night. So Tuesday, I'll talk about those, as well as me recapping the Belmont Stakes, horse racing, the French Open tennis finals, the rest of the CFL, Week 1, the UFL Conference Championship games, and other breaking news. Yeah, so I believe that's it, folks. So thankfully, I got enough storage. And man, what an episode. The longest episode on KSN. So, oh yeah, the last thing, I usually read comments at the end from 5Tayer. He commented on the last episode. He said, late comment, but oh well. I am not entirely thrilled about the fact that we are getting a rematch in the NHL, but it was great last year, and I hope Edmonton wins only because I don't like teams winning it back-to-back. Okay, and regarding the NBA, it has the potential to be a really good series, but it could also be a really disappointing one too. Hoping for both to be fantastic though. I usually don't reply to comments on this channel because I would usually do a video response, me replying on video. But I told Five Tear and said, I'm late with the next episode, which is this episode. Didn't have time to record, but I'll have it released by tomorrow. When I say tomorrow, this was from Friday. That comment, my reply, at 11 a.m. So, yep. Who knows what's gonna happen? Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? Who knows who'll get fired next? Hopefully it's not me, because I don't think I've said any bad, nasty things, you know. So, yeah, man, so much. All right. I hope this episode went well. That'd be fun if I listened to this episode, since this episode is so long. That'd be fun if I listened to this episode while playing American Truck Simulator. Listen to Keith Sports News while trucking. Oh, speaking of trucking, I don't know if I mentioned this before. If I did, it was a while ago. I mentioned that I have SiriusXM, right? And I have a whole bunch of channels and shows added to my library, so that way it's easier to find them whenever I want to listen to that show or channel instead of trying to find it or search it, which really helps. So they have one called Road Dog Trucking Radio. Sometimes I would listen to that channel on my way to work in the mornings. So, it's a really good channel. It's really good. I feel like I should play that for American Truck Simulator, or even Euro Truck Simulator 2 on Eric Super Magnificent's YouTube channel. And the main sport that I would listen to for games is baseball. I've added 9 teams, 9 MLB teams to my library because I like the announcers. And those are the Red Sox, White Sox, Astros, Dodgers, Brewers, Mets, Yankees, Giants, and Cardinals. All right. So, yeah. Anyways, another show, Down the Stretch. It's the horse racing show. I mainly only listen to that show during this time of the year, the Triple Crown season. But they have Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson, he just turned 84, and he sounds fantastic. Like, he doesn't sound like he's that age. Yeah. So, yeah, Dave Johnson, he was the track announcer back in the ABC era. I know. And Al Michaels is coming back for another football season for Thursday Night Football. And Al Michaels just turned 80. A lot of announcers, they don't go on until they're 80. A lot of them, they retired when they're 70. But, man, Al Michaels, that means he loves doing it. He will go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, football announcer of all time. So, yeah. All right. Enjoy your sports weekend. There's too much happening. I'll try my best to watch them all, or at least some of them, and maybe I'll do that double screen, watching both at the same time. You can do that nowadays with 2 different devices. So, if you listen to this entire episode, wow, that means you are a big fan. I apologize that this was a super long episode. There was just so much to talk about. So yeah, I'll have a great weekend. See you on Tuesday. Bye-bye. Play that music. Play that Danger Deer Drive music. There we go. Sounds great. Alright, I'm out of here. Bye. Thank you for listening to Keith's Sports News.